Good morning and welcome back to Donington Park for the next round of 5 rounds left this season, and it is all still to play for in the championship battle. I can tell you straight away that the pictures you're seeing right now are very representative of the weather conditions here today, because well, just as we got to broadcast, Piers, the rain has started to drip down slightly, and if you can see behind us here, we've got some big old clouds. If you were in that car right now, ready to go out in the next 20 minutes or so, would you be thinking, right, we're having a wet race today?
Yeah, there's absolutely no chance it slicks this morning. Circuit has been absolutely soaked overnight. We had like drizzly rain yesterday, but this is starting to feel like proper rain.
It really, really is, and people are getting ready, and we can see teams getting their tyres ready. There are slicks there, obviously, in case something crazy happens. I have a feeling there's absolutely no chance they're going to get touched. The wet tyres there in abundance. It's going to be another exciting race. We had a great first race of the weekend yesterday, and it was another storming victory for Lucas Blakeley.
Highlights from round 16 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, and it was Finn Harrison starting from pole position with a good launch down to the first corner. Linus Granfors would have a good initial launch, however, would struggle to get up the gears and unfortunately would drop right the way down the order. He would rectify the problem by the time they were out of turn 1, but he'd already dropped basically towards the back. Meanwhile, Lucas Blakeley from 5th position already snuck his way through into 2nd on the exit of the first corner as he'd get his way past the likes of Wilson and Baxter down into that first turn. He was able to charge off into the distance, was able to close up to Finn Harrison, was able to get through as well. Meanwhile, contact down the order as Baxter would go, Templeton would go for a bit of a spin after contact with Baxter. Meanwhile, Linus Granfors trying to march his way up the order. Big slide as he clips the curb coming down the Craners. He was able to work his way through and up the order as he was marching back up towards the top 5. Big lock up there for Dan Hickey, who'd go straight on at the final corner as he was unable to turn or slow the car. Meanwhile, Wilson was going out wide trying to defend from Palmovsky. Palmovsky was able to find her way past and was able to sneak through into what was 3rd position. Then Wilson and Baxter were so obsessed with each other they completely forgot about Linus Granfors, who was able to find his way through and up into 4th position and was staring at the back of a potential podium. Meanwhile, for the race lead, it was an excellent drive for Lucas Blakeley to take a 3rd victory in GB4.
Great win there for Lucas Blakeley, his 3rd race win. You can see what that meant to him when we spoke to him afterwards. Of course, you can go back and watch that full race on the MSV YouTube or on Facebook as well. A tough one for a few drivers out there. We saw a few problems at the start, and Harry Burgoyne was one of the drivers that had a bit of a nightmare. It didn't qualify so well, qualified down in 9th, so already a little bit of a tricky one for him. Qualification yesterday, very, very wet, but Piers here had a bit of an issue there, didn't he?
Yeah, he had to come in at the end of the formation lap, and team were attending to the car. The KMR Sport team did well to get him back out, but not ideal for his championship challenge.
Okay, but he still got out there, so still a vital day to practice in these conditions, and actually we spoke to him after the race yesterday.
So Harry, what happened for you in the car yesterday in race 1?
So we came out of the pits, and I went into 2nd gear and put the foot down, and just there was no power at all. Done the green flag lap. I thought maybe a brake or something was sticking on, but it wasn't. So we came into the pits to take the engine cover off, and it looked like a pipe fell off, a clip broke, so it kind of limited our power, and then it took about 2 laps to fix, and then by that time it's just too late, so we just went out and done some laps, got a feel for the track and everything. So if it's like that today, we know we're good.
And do you think it's sorted for today, or are you not sure yet?
Yeah, I mean, it was sorted for the rest of the race yesterday, so I'm looking forward to today, see if we can do any position. Nothing to lose now.
And what are you hoping for the next 2 races today?
Definitely podium, starting P4 in the reverse grid race, so that should be a pretty good race.
Good luck today, Harry. Thank you.
Yeah, not great for Harry Burgoyne Jr.'s title hopes there. He is still 30 points behind leader Linus Granfors in 3rd place, so still very much in the title picture. Alicia Palmovsky, another driver coming on the podium there. She's now cut. She was 31 points behind at the start of the day yesterday. She's now 28 points behind Linus Granfors as well, so she's still doing incredibly well. We've got a lot of new faces in the paddock this weekend. Alec Misera was doing his 1st ever race. Can you imagine coming to Donington Park? Like, this is 1st ever race doing anything. Like, 1st ever race. Like, and never raced competitively at all.
And it was slick tyres on a damp track, of course, on a British GT race weekend with a lot of people watching. So yeah, thrown in at the deep end, but I think he swam.
Yeah, absolutely. Seriously impressive. Naomi caught up with him yesterday to find out how his 1st competitive race went.
So Alec, that's your 1st race in GB4 completed. How was that for you?
Ups and downs. I mean, conditions were a bit tricky. We stuck to slicks and no point coming in for wets. Had a good battle with Dan Hickey, actually. I'm going to go say hi to him. It was a really good battle, sort of did a little wave to each other. No, I'm happy. Made up positions in the race, so can't complain.
And how does that kind of compare to the experience you've gained previously?
To be honest, in the rain, I don't have a lot of experience. We did one test at the very start, Alton Park, one day, and that's been all my wet running, to be honest. And I've had the rest of my days, 12 or whatever it is, have been in the dry. So it was a learning experience, quite a steep learning curve, but we got through it. So yeah, all good.
And the plans for tomorrow, what are you looking for?
Tomorrow, I mean, we're starting on pole for race 3, I think, so that's going to be interesting. I'm going to keep an eye out on the radar. Right now, hotel, sleep, eat, sleep, just sort of clear my mind, and then back tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Alec. Thank you.
Yeah, an absolutely great sort of first race there. And I guess when you're a driver, once you've done that first race, the second race is going to be a little bit nervy, but you've been out there, you know what's going on. The weather's a little bit worse today, but that shouldn't put him off too much.
No, actually, it'd probably be slightly easier actually in this race because they know it's wet and it's going to be wet tyres, so it's a bit more predictable. I'm sure he's done some testing. Hopefully, he's had a chance to go out on wet tyres because it is quite different in the way you have to drive the car compared to the slicks. And obviously, yesterday it was like slicks on a damp track. So, yeah, you know, a lot of weight will be lifted off his shoulders. He'll feel a lot more relaxed because he knows how the procedure, how everything goes. Because a lot of the experience you get from your first few races is not actually the driving on circuit, because the drivers can do that in testing. It's, you know, coming to the assembly area, getting yourself ready, getting mentally prepared, going out, warming the tyres, getting on the grid, the start procedure, how everything works. And it sounds easy, and you watch drivers, you know, if you watch the streams, drivers do it week in, week out. But actually going through all those procedures for the first time is quite mentally taxing. Yeah. And then once you've done it a few times, it becomes a habit.
We look out for Alec Misera in the number 88 Idola car, not Arden. Sharing an awning, that's why I got confused. Number 88, bit of pink on that car. Piers prior raced in pink, so I'm sure you've got a little soft spot there. Also, Nicholas Ellis racing for the first time this weekend. We'll see how he gets on and catch up with him again very, very soon. But Piers, we're next to the tyres right now, so it seems like a good opportunity. In case, you know, you're new to racing or you know someone that's racing and you're not an aficionado of racing, let's just look at these tyres here. So these are Lucas Blakeley's tyres, and we can obviously see the differences between slicks and the wets. So just explain to us, because obviously the wets have tread, but then the slicks do have these sort of the little dots in them there. And Piers, you're the driver. Please explain.
Well, we race on slick tyres in the dry conditions because it gives you the most surface area, so you get the most grip. They're very, very slippery, as you can see. They're quite shiny, brand new, but once they get warm, it's like chewing gum. It kind of softens up and then really sticks to the road surface. But when it rains like this and you can't get temperature in the slick tyres, you need some blocks of tread, one to let the water run out the side of the tyre so you don't just skim along the top of the water, but also these blocks move around and they can wobble, which effectively adds some temperature. It's a bit of a softer rubber as well, which means that the drivers can go around that speed in wet conditions. But you wouldn't want to be using one of these in the dry because they're too soft and they'll break up, but you wouldn't want to be using one of these in the wet because you'll have no tyre temperature and have no grip. So finding sometimes in tricky, when it's like part wet, part dry, making the choice between them is critical.
Yeah, and of course, like you might have seen in F1, there's no intermediate tyres, so it's kind of a decision between one or the other. It's kind of black or white, there's no grey area. We obviously have different size tyres as well, so difference between rear tyres and the front tyres. And obviously, what does this mean? What does this writing mean, Piers? Please explain.
Right, the teams just write quite simply whose tyres are on, so you don't get them mixed up, because the tyres all have barcodes provided by Pirelli, and they're assigned to you as a driver. In GB4, we have 6 new tyres, slick tyres, for a race weekend to use in qualifying in the 4 races. And effectively, wets are, I say unlimited, not unlimited because they cost money, but the wets are not controlled in the same way. So yeah, just to make sure that all the teams and drivers have the same opportunity for new rubber, because new slick tyres in dry conditions are faster than used slick tyres.
Absolutely, and obviously KMR is KMR Sport. Number 88 is the car of Lucas Blakeley there. And when it comes to scanning the barcodes there, that is because they want to make sure teams are not going around the rules at all, because you only get assigned a certain amount. I actually saw scrutineering yesterday at KMR scanning those tyres when they did an inspection. So it is very heavily regulated to make sure it's a fair playing field for everyone. Now, we've talked about the tyres, we've talked about some of the drivers. Now there's a new car coming next year. We've talked about this a lot on this broadcast, and if you were watching yesterday, you'll know that our very own Piers Pryor, a driver in his own right, got to try out the new GB4 car for 2025. We saw you kind of getting ready, we saw you talking through the car. You can go back and watch this if you missed it, but you were just about to get in the car and give it a go until we had to pause and we had to go to the race. So now let's find out what happened when Piers Pryor tried the new GB4 car for next year.
Right, pit speed limiter. And we're away, here we go. Let's get a feel for the brakes. Wow, this is awesome! Gears feel epic. Let's get a feel for the brakes. A little under rotation there already. Let's get a feel for this car. Oh, the speed is epic! The brakes are very sharp. This is all bringing memories back. I've been here before. Years ago. No one behind me, clear track ahead of me. It's a dream for a racing driver. Easy through the chicane first time. Still got move the mirror a bit so I can see. Oh, what a joy! That was great. Engine temps are good. Car feels good. I'm absolutely loving this. Get a feel for the car. Oh, it feels so good! Flat out down the corner goes easily flat. Tyres are nowhere near full temperature yet. Just easing my way around, getting a feel for the car. Just moving around a little bit. Oh, this is absolute heaven. Oh, I've forgotten what this feels like. I'm a very lucky boy to feel this. Most people never get to feel performance like this in their life. I lived it for a bit, and now I'm getting to do it all over again. Oh, what a day. Right, the grip at high speed is epic. Easy now on the hairpin, wait for the traction and fire it out of the corner. Use all the road. Use all the road. Easy on the power. Drive out of the corner. Oh, this is freaking epic. Right, 3-lap run to start with, 2 more laps to go. Let's push the braking a bit more. So hold the brakes longer, cause the car to oversteer when I go off brakes too early. Through the high speed. So much confidence. Right, let's brake later for the chicane. Throw a bit more speed through, look up early. Again, braking later. Lovely. Again, low speed still gives you so much confidence. pit limiter, second gear, and that is a session in a GB4 car. Oh, what a day.
Last one.
Ooh,
Good.
lovely. Oh man, that's good.
So, my first session in the 2025 GB4 car is done. I had an absolute blast. I don't know whether you could see from my face straight out of the car, I'm still grinning, but I absolutely love every second of it. I haven't driven a car in anger on a race circuit for getting on for 4 years now, since the November 2020, where it was my last season GB3. Long time, but within a lap I felt comfortable in the car. Really intuitive to drive, encourages you to push more, and the more you push, the more the car comes alive. Really nice level of downforce actually on the car for this year's GB4 car. Got a bit more than the current GB4 cars, which means you can get a lot of confidence in the high-speed corners, but not so much that it's going to be intimidating to a new driver, either straight out of karting or maybe who is not so experienced in single-seater slicks and wings. Car moves around in medium and low speed. You can really play with the throttle and the brakes in the low speed corners as well. And I think it's a great step up upgrade for the GB4 Championship, and I'm looking forward to seeing how more drivers react to driving this car for 2025.
So that was me trying out the new GB4 car, and as you could see on the day, it was epic. I really enjoyed it, and I'm hoping that a lot more drivers will get to test it, because only a few drivers have got to test it so far, and one of them is right here. Race winner from yesterday at Donington Park. A great race for yesterday, but let's talk about that new GB4 car, Lucas. On that day, you were in the morning with Douglas doing some performance runs, because clearly I'm not good enough for performance runs these days. Absolutely fine, because we know that you can perform in GB4 at a high level. But from your experience, having driven the current GB4 spec car and then the new spec car, you know, I think it must be a step forward.
I think it was just, overall, it was so much more fundamentally better on braking, traction. You could sort of feel the aero working a little bit more. It is very different to the current car. So it is like a very big step in a sort of a different direction, but it's like a step forward, if that makes sense. So yeah, very enjoyable to drive. It felt very rewarding in the sense that when you pushed more and more, it sort of it didn't work against you. It sort of yeah, kind of rewarded you for it. It just felt better to drive when it was going quick. So yeah, it was good fun, especially to do it around a track like Donington, and it gave me a great direct comparison when I jumped back into the current car to sort of understand the differences. And I think probably the biggest thing that stood out was just braking performance first of all, and then yeah, with the new differential in the car as well, because you know, naturally with the way, you know, it's getting effectively changed from a GB3 into a GB4, the differential is phenomenal. The traction is just outstanding. You can really rotate the car on the entry as well. You can be quite aggressive. You can definitely do things in the new car that if you tried to do in the current car, you'd find yourself off on an adventure. So yeah.
I'd completely agree with that, because of course you have a lot of recent experience. You've been in the GB4 Championship the last few rounds, you've raced another series recently. I hadn't driven a proper race car on circuit since the end of 2020, and I jumped in and straight away I felt like I could push, like it gave me confidence. And I suppose, of course, you know, you've got a lot of racing experience. You're a bit older than some of the drivers who are looking to do GB4 next year, seeing as, you know, some of them are like 15 years old. But it's the fact that it's fairly easy to jump in the car and feel at one and be able to push the car must be good for drivers who haven't got a huge amount of you know, racing experience.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's, as you say, it's very inviting. You know, when you push harder, it's kind of eggs you on. You want to go more and more and more to find that limit, and it's just really enjoyable. And it also sounds really good in the car, which is always a fun note. But no, it's definitely probably a good one for people to jump into and drive. Obviously, going from maybe a go-kart into that, it'll be quite a bit quicker corner speeds, obviously. But once you sort of adapt to that, it'll be quite inviting to give it more and more. So yeah, it's definitely a good platform to develop on, and will be a good learning tool for up-and-coming drivers who look to get into the single-seater ladder.
As you can see, the rain has increased slightly. Piers has just said to me, it's proper raining, and I can guarantee it is proper raining now. Yeah, it's kind of coming down a bit heavier. Oh, great feature, by the way, Piers. Sorry, just to reflect on that. You are never going to get any jip from me about not being a proper racing driver, because, and Piers won't admit to this, he was about a second off Lucas Blakeley's best lap at the end, and that was on old tyres, which means I think you still got it.
Hey, but I'm here now.
No, but it was really cool to see you driving that car, and we get a great perspective of what it's like to be there, and I know Lucas has really enjoyed it as well. We've noticed that Lucas has got some Scottish TV here, focusing on him as his story continues, making his move from sim racing into GB4 and doing incredibly well. It's going to be interesting to see if he can get up where he was yesterday from 5th place on the grid again, because kind of made up all those places on the first lap after a few of the drivers, maybe, well, one, Linus had a bit of a problem there, but the others were all sort of fighting it out, and he kind of went around the inside, I think it was, of them.
Yeah, I mean, Blakeley had a great start yesterday, went up from, was it 5th place to the lead pretty swiftly. Different situation today. Yesterday he made got the tyres up working quickly, which was critical at that start of the race because it was still a bit damp on the slick tyres. Today, wet tyres, and I don't think we've seen Lucas in full wet conditions for a little while, so I don't know if he's had any testing in wet conditions. I don't think he's done much testing at all, if I'm honest. So we know he can control the car well, we know he's got good speed in the dry conditions. Let's see what happens in this one, but he's got a lot of very, very quick drivers around him. When we've got Finn Harrison in the lead, we've got Linus Granfors, a championship leader, ahead of him. Alicia Palmowski, we know, is very quick in the wet as well, so it's going to be anyone's race, I think, and when it's wet there's more variables, so things become a little bit less predictable.
Interestingly, as we've been talking here, it's kind of got a little bit less wet. It's kind of maybe not umbrella weather now, so put those to the side. That was like singing in the rain there a little bit. Should we go for a little walk and see what we can find? We're going to go for a little walk now. Let's head towards the front of the grid, because I saw some of the team principals chatting, Eddie Ives and Ollie Dutton here. We can see, in fact they're still chatting here, just talking about a few things, just making sure, keeping up with each other. Richard Dutton there as well, having a chat. I don't know what they're chatting about. I mean, probably private conversation, so I won't stick a microphone in there. We can see Finn Harrison starting on pole position as he did yesterday, and obviously still finished on the podium. But when you start on pole position, I guess you're going to be a little bit disappointed when you don't see that through.
Yeah, of course. When you're on pole positions, the expectation is to try and make the most use of that, get away at the start, at the front of the field, and then and pull away. He didn't quite manage that yesterday, but still a solid result for Finn. We know he's had a bit of inconsistency throughout the season this year, and he's been quick on his day and taken great results, but sometimes things haven't quite gone his way as consistently as he would like. But towards the second half of the season, I think he's really trending in a good direction. It's great to see him up there once again. He was quick in wet conditions earlier on this year as well, so we'll see that. But also, I'm looking out for Liam Wilson, who's in 3rd position, the number 27 Arden car. He's, whenever it's wet, I don't know whether it's him, the car, or a combination of both, he's been right there in all the wet conditions. Silverstone, rapid in the wet. He was quick here last time out, I think, when it was damp, and I'm looking forward to seeing him potentially get another podium.
We see to the right of Liam Wilson, Alicia Palmowski with a nice golf umbrella there representing. Don't know if she's a golf fan at all, we haven't actually discussed golf, but she's obviously going to be hoping for a good race as well as we move forward and see Lucas Blakeley on her right in the number 88 car. Kevin Mills from KMR Sport just walking away now as the car's almost getting out to race. Brandon Templeton is another driver. Callum Baxter we've got here as well. I'm just kind of looking around at people we've not spoken to so far. It's kind of hard to get around some of the drivers sometime, but when you're approaching this race now, when it's really wet out on track there, what's the most important thing these drivers need to kind of balance on the first lap? Because you want to get a good start, but you don't want to lose traction, you don't want to make a mistake.
It's all about finding where the wettest parts of the circuit are. The previous sessions have, dried certain parts of the circuit. There might be puddles in other places. Find those on the outlap and then get away from the line quickly.
Well, look, they're going to get away very, very soon, because for the second time this weekend in the GB4 Championship here at Donington Park, we're ready to go racing.
And so with 16 races down, we have 5 left to go in 2024 before we crown our champion. We've already had some big swings in the championship already. The quartet of victories from Linus Granfors being one of those, but the most recent form leans towards Alicia Palmowski, who has had 6 podiums in the last 10 races. Could she be challenging for that title come that final race in Brands Hatch in just a few weeks' time? Focusing though on this weekend here at Donington, it was a victory yesterday for Lucas Blakeley. Finn Harrison will be starting from pole position. And of course, finished on the podium yesterday. Alicia Palmowski joined them on the podium as she closed down a further 3 points on the championship leader. A look at the circuit they will be racing at, of course, opened back in the 1930s. And of course, has changed quite a lot over the years that it's been racing, but it still holds some of those key landmarks that we saw even back in those days. Obviously, the likes of Redgate, the old hairpin, the likes of McLean's and Coppice, and of course down towards the Melbourne hairpin, all excellent overtaking opportunities around this 2.5 mile circuit. The most notable feature is, of course, the elevation, 36 metres all the way around the 12 turns of Donington Park. It is a tricky circuit, especially when the conditions are difficult as well. And as you can see here, it is quite wet out there on circuit. Finn Harrison will be leading them away from that pole position in what looks to be very, very troublesome conditions. Alas, I'm sure it's the main key for everyone today is keeping it on the road. So a couple of struggles with that yesterday. We'll take a look at the starting grid, of course. It will be Finn Harrison starting from pole position with Linus Granfors starting alongside on the front row. That is the championship leader starting from second. On the second row of the grid is Liam Wilson for the Arden Motorsport team starting from third, and Alicia Palmowski now second of the championship starting from fourth place. Lucas Blakeley, race winner, won from fifth yesterday, starts from fifth again alongside Callum Baxter in sixth position. He was embroiled in a fight with Liam Wilson throughout the entirety of the previous race. Brandon Templeton will start from 10th position alongside Chloe Grant for the KMR Sport team before we get back to Harry Burgoyne Jr., who's dropped back from second in the championship. Basically was running around at the rear of the field yesterday. He'll start from 9th position alongside Nicholas Ellis, of course, for the Elite Motorsports team. Megan Bruce in 11th position with Dan Hickey running from 12th spot. Just 3 more cars left to go as we'll see Jack Taylor and Alexander Misera, of course, on debut this weekend in 14th position on the grid. The final spot will go to Ava Dobson. It is really tricky out there today. Again, definitely wet tyres though. In some ways, there might even be the calls that it might not be quite as difficult as yesterday's race, where they were running around in conditions obviously less wet than this, but they were running around on slick tyres, which was causing their fair share of problems. Saw that with the likes of Linus Granfors coming down the hill, of course, where he had that big slide going down the Craners. Lass was able to keep it on the road. You can see the spray quite thick around here as we'll get ready for the race. Again, it'll be 18 minutes of racing for the second race at the Donington Park weekend. We'll have to wait and see who's going to come out on top. Maybe we'll be looking towards a Lucas Blakeley victory from 5th position again. Maybe Finn Harrison's going to take a second victory in GB4. Or maybe Linus Granfors is going to return to winning ways for the 6th time in 2024. He has been a force to be reckoned with in the championship. Cameron Shot, nice one, as he'll walk his way off the grid, that's fine. The marshals will get them ready. Preparing for the 17th race in GB4 in 2024. It has been quite a journey thus far. Lewis McGlade, Piers Pryor in the commentary booth. Finn Harrison starting from pole position. Alongside it will be Linus Granfors, then Wilson, then Palmowski second in the championship before we get to Lucas Blakeley, the winner from yesterday. 18 minutes goes onto the clock and we'll get ourselves racing down towards turn 1. Will Linus Granfors have the same problems he had yesterday on that race down to the first corner? We get going. It's a great start from Harry Burgoyne Jr. from 9th position on the grid as he's already trying to work his way through onto the left-hand side of your screen, that number 68. Great start from Linus Granfors, though, who's going to get around the outside in the red and white Fortec machine up towards the race lead. Looking a little bit further back, there's some plenty of drama, but it is Linus Granfors to take over the race lead heading through the first corner.
Brilliant start from Linus Granfors, and in the wet, it's not so much of a disadvantage going into turn 1 on the outside, because you can use the grip on the outside of the circuit away from the racing line to your advantage, and Granfors did exactly that. Also a good start away from the line from Alicia Palmowski. She's up to 3rd position and she had just got away from the line well. I could see out of the commentary box window right in front of us that she got a good launch. And also Harry Burgoyne Jr., although his progress was stunted a little bit into turn 1.
Yeah, of course, you can see how difficult it is there. I would say it maybe even is less of the sliding on the actual race there. It's when you go offline side, what we saw there with Harry Burgoyne Jr. as he got onto the green, that painted concrete effectively on the exit of McLean's. You saw a big slide there as he lost basically all of the grip.
Yeah, the painted white lines are are slipperier than the race circuit, that's for sure, and the red and white curves, and especially the green painted sections even beyond the curves, which the drivers technically shouldn't really be driving on anyway because it's outside of track limits, but in these tricky conditions, I mean, that shot just shows how little visibility there is in the wall of spray that these cars throw up. Granford's feeling the need to go defensive on the first lap into the hairpin, or was he just trying to stay off that racing line?
Yeah, I think just trying to maybe get off that rubbered in line. You can see Harry Burgoyne Jr. trying to get to the inside of Wilson as they work their way down towards Goddard's. Obviously, Burgoyne Jr. trying to make up as much progress as possible after starting from 9th position to the outside. He's going to go in the number 68. It's going to be the up and under as we head back out onto the Wheatcroft straight and onto the start finish. It should be a good exit there from Harry Burgoyne Jr. We'll get all the way along the outside of the Arden car of Wilson as we head our way back down into turn 1. Curious to see as to whether that move has been complete. Can Harry Burgoyne Jr. complete it as he gets to the outside at Redgate, goes for the up and under once more?
Yeah, good driving from Wilson so far, but just a bit of a slide on the exit allows Burgoyne back underneath on the exit as Burgoyne gets good traction, and Liam Wilson unfortunately is dropping down the order. Started in 3rd, now down to, I imagine, about 6th place.
I think it might be 8th, even after that move coming in from Harry Burgoyne Jr. for the number 27. 7th. Fair enough. So Harry Burgoyne Jr. up to 6th place.
Yes, yeah,
not bad.
Yeah, not bad. A good start from Harry Burgoyne Jr. He's got a lot of experience. Harry Burgoyne Jr. has a lot of experience in. Wilson makes a big mistake going into McLean's. He locks up the left front tyre and ends up going straight on and loses track position behind Burgoyne Jr. and is now under pressure from Chloe Grant. What was I talking about before that, Lewis? I was mid
Harry Burgoyne Jr.
Yes, he's got a lot of experience in karting, so you know he's experienced a lot of wet weather conditions. He's from Scotland as well, and we know the Scottish drivers, they get a fair amount of driving in wet conditions. 2 high-tech drivers fighting into the Fogarty S's.
High-tech drivers?
Oh my goodness,
Fantastic.
4-tech, not high-tech. Sorry.
Me.
My syllables getting confused. Here we go. Let's have a look at the race start once again. Right-hand side is shot. Good start from Linus Granfors.
So we're getting word that he might have been slightly out of position at that race start. It did look as though he was slightly further to the right, maybe even a little bit too far forward. Either way, that's how Granfors took over the race lead. We have got the note from race control that the race start will be investigated after the race, so there could be a post-race penalty of some description for the driver in the middle of your screen there.
Yeah, we won't be able to comment on that during this race, but if you keep an eye on the GB4.net website or the GB4 socials, then you'll be able to find any potential post-race amendments. Fastest lap of the race does go to Granfors on that last lap, a 1:43.3. So.
Whoa.
Go on, Lewis.
This is big side-by-side going down the crane as Lucas Blakeley working his way past. Absolutely fantastic move on Alicia Palmovsky as they work their way down the crane of curves and into the old hairpin. That was a brilliant move to try and work his way down into 3rd position. Of course, do remember that Blakeley did win yesterday's race from 5th position. However, he did make most of that progress in the first lap, basically.
Yeah, he did. He had a great start yesterday. Very different conditions today, though. As you can see how slippery it is once you get some wheels on the painted surfaces. And both Blakeley and Palmovsky, full handful of opposite lock. I actually genuinely thought Palmovsky might be going round there, but she saved it. But we know that Palmovsky has good car control. Last time we were here at Donington, she had a damaged left rear wheel. Or different rear suspension. We're having a look at a replay from the Melbourne hairpin. This was Wilson and Burgoyne on lap 1 or 2, I think. And Templeton got turned around by his teammate Megan Bruce, I think. So we didn't see the start of that incident, but definitely Bruce and Templeton, the 2 Fox Motorsport drivers, coming close together as a lunge at the hairpin from Harry Burgoyne Jr. up the inside of Baxter and gets the move done. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was a great move coming in from Harry Burgoyne Jr. Big send to the inside. Next one up is Alicia Palmovsky. Could be retaking over 2nd of the championship, but the pair of them at the moment will be losing an awful lot of ground to Linus Granfors, who looks to almost put one hand on the title. Of course, 35 points for a race victory. So obviously, you know, he's got a 30-point lead over Harry Burgoyne Jr. and it's 28 points over Alicia Palmovsky, does Linus Granfors. So he'll be extending it to probably more than a race victory after this. Does mean that he definitely can't wrap this one up here at Donington Park. He'll have to wait until Brands Hatch in a few weeks' time when we go to that season finale to see who's going to be crowned champion here in GB4. But Granfors 1.6 seconds clear of Finn Harrison, who probably won't be too happy with having 2 pole positions and maybe no victories this weekend. Yeah,
Harrison would like to have got another victory on the board this weekend and would have been hoping for that after such a strong showing in qualifying, a double pole position. He was very, very fast in that qualifying session, which was on wet tyres, but conditions slightly drier than this. I did catch up with Finn pretty soon after the qualifying, and he said there were some dry patches out on circuit. Absolutely no dry patches out on circuit this morning, as you can see through your through all the shots we're bringing you right now. Spray still showing in quite a lot of the corners. So yeah, potentially that, different conditions, the cars and drivers are a bit more or less comfortable than maybe some of their competitors, and the driver's still going off of the racing line to try and find the best amount of grip as Granfors heads his way down into the Melbourne hairpin. Although, Lewis, it's not too early for more drama to happen. We've seen it before, and I'm sure we'll see it again. But Granfors, at the moment, fastest man on circuit, and is gapping Harrison at about the gap of 4 or 5 tenths a lap.
Yeah, I mean, look, we got a fair share of drama yesterday again, especially in GB3 when we had Timmy Kuharczyk drop it down the road at the old hairpin on the final lap of the race. It could well get something in that vein in this. You just never really know. The spray's not quite as bad as you were dealing with yesterday when I flew past you on the way to the restaurant, obviously overtaking the legend that is Piers Pryor. You had a couple of bits of slipping and sliding.
It was certainly wet last night when we were driving away from the circuit. Not as treacherous as going flat out down the Craner curves, though, that's for certain, because these drivers, it will be, I don't know if it's completely flat in wet conditions. I think it's probably near flat in these GB4 cars, because they do have a decent amount of downforce, and the Pirelli wet tyres that the GB4 Championship uses, they're very, very good at wicking the water away from the racing surface, which is why we see a drying line on the racing line and the spray coming up from behind these cars. Harrison actually set the fastest lap of the race in that last lap, so brought the gap at the front of the field down, but only by 0.03 of a second. He's going to need to find a little bit more pace than that to bridge the 1.6 seconds that we're looking at right now.
And from what I'm seeing out the comms box window, I think it has stopped raining. So there's no like rain coming down at the moment. It's just the water that we're dealing with on the circuit.
Oh.
It's off the circuit goes Ellis. Have to rejoin. That's a bit of an awkward one at McLean's.
Yes, actually, Ellis is his very limited racing experience. But he has a fair amount of experience sailing, I hear, in
really?
yachts and such like. So he's not scared of the water, but it's a whole different ball game when you're dancing a car on top of water as opposed to a boat.
Yeah, it's not. You've got different levels of grip, and whilst sure you've got a fair amount of grip still on a car compared to in a boat. It's just what you're trying to do in a boat. They're more built for these kind of conditions. This is, like I say, tough stuff out there. But a big shame for Ellis to have dropped it down into the gravel trap there. Was able to get it through there without coming to a stop. Another couple of tenths closed down then as Finn Harrison sets yet another fastest lap of the race, closing back down on Linus Granfors, your race leader. 9 minutes left to go in the race. I was wondering if we were going to run a lap shorter than yesterday. Yesterday's race was a 12-lap race. We've just completed 5. I think we are going to be a lap shorter than yesterday, courtesy of the times. I think it might be an 11-lap race. Dan Hickey off the road at Redgate. Wow, it's very deep into. I'm amazed he's got out of that, to be honest. Yeah,
Dan Hickey we saw yesterday in the damp race. He got off the racing line into the final corner, got ours locked up and went off. And then unfortunately, I think it's a similar situation into Redgate. Once you lock the front tyres in these single-seaters in wet conditions, it's almost impossible to unlock it again. You have to come off the brakes almost completely, but by that time, then you're missing the brake point. Yeah, you're very, very much sailing into the corner at a speed greater than you would otherwise like. And unfortunately for Dan Hickey, he's clearly had that happen into turn 1 and run through the gravel, but he continues on without any damage other than to his lap time on this specific lap.
I just say I really like the Sadola livery.
Yeah.
I really like it. I didn't realise this. It's got like a matte finish to it.
Yeah.
It looks quite smart. Yeah. No, I'm all about it. I think it looks great.
Yeah. Great to see another team inside the GB4 Championship as well. Idola, they've got experience in Pragas and GTs and other sports cars, but turning their hand to GB4, and I believe Alec's been testing a few times this year in the GB4 car. He was out last week when I had my test in the 2025 GB4 car, and he was looking like he was going well then. But yeah, it's a whole different ball game in a race situation, which we've heard that it may well be his first race weekend ever. Which is crazy. Closing up to the back of Ava Dobson was Misera, so there might be a switch for 13th position. This is back up to the race lead. First, second and third, all separated by 3.9 seconds, but the fastest laps just come in to Linus Granfors, out now to 1.6 seconds as he tries to hunt down yet another victory. It's actually the interesting thing, so it would be his 6th victory in GB4, but in the last 10 races it would be just his 4th podium. Yes.
Which is wild.
He had a very, very strong start to the season, didn't he, Linus?
Yeah.
And then has had a bit of a mid-season. We say slump. It will be. He's not had a terrible mid-season, but by championship standards and the standards that he set earlier in the year, it's been a bit of a slump in form. But he looks like he's right back on it. Brilliant yesterday, of course, after his unfortunate issue at the start of the race, came back through the field to get a good result. And then today, in the wet conditions, he's not really put a foot wrong so far. Don't want to jinx it. Still 6.5 minutes to go, and we've seen drama on the final lap this weekend in GB3. We don't want to tempt it in GB4, but these conditions are tricky.
Indeed, Alicia Palmovsky will be desperate to find a way past Lucas Blakeley, who seems to be not quite showing the same speed as he had yesterday when he was able to pull out what was a very comfortable victory. There's Harry Burgoyne Jr. going on the defence of the number 45. Callum Baxter is for 5th position. Burgoyne Jr. feeling the pressure from the car he was in last year. Yeah, and also it was the car that he passed just a few laps ago. Baxter's now looking on the outside going into Goddard's. Can Baxter brake late? He either go all the way around the outside. He's looking to go around the outside. I don't think Burgoyne's going to give him space at the exit, though. I think that's that door is going to be closed in his face, and it was. So interesting to see that earlier in the race, it was Burgoyne who had the pace, I think, from pretty much everyone in the midfield. He was passing people left, right and centre. Now he's slightly on the back foot and everyone else is coming towards him, and it might potentially be that the tyre pressures have been set slightly differently between the different teams and drivers. On wet tyres, generally, if you set them a bit higher, you'll warm them up a bit more effectively and have a bit of grip early in the race, but then they may well go off as the circuit dries and the temperatures in the tyres come up. And the sun's actually come out of this part of the circuit, so that potentially wouldn't help those drivers. Go a bit lower on the pressures, might struggle at the start of the race, but then be strong at the end. So the teams will be making decisions on the tyres, but also it may well just be that the drivers feeling more comfortable at different stages in the race with their car set up. Well, Finn Harrison's just feeling pretty comfortable at the moment. He's had a fast lap of the race and closed down by basically half a second on the previous lap nearly on Grand Fours. You're absolutely right, by the way. Sun's coming out. I can even see some blue sky out there. Absolutely crazy.
I don't think it's going to last for very long, though. It's a little blue patch. Today is going to be very much changeable weather, as Baxter has another little sniff up the inside of the Fogarty S. It doesn't put it up the inside there. Fogarty S's are so slippery in the wet conditions. Always seems that way. But actually, Baxter had a bit of an oversteer moment on the exit of the Fogarty S. Is now actually going to be under pressure from Leon Wilson in the 27 Arden Motorsport car behind. But no, Baxter brakes late, pulls a bit of a gap on Wilson and closes back up to the rear end of the KMR Sport grey and blue car of Harry Burgoyne Jr. This is the closest battle inside the top 10 at the moment.
I'm not trying to queue it up because I don't know if we have it this weekend, because I haven't seen it yesterday, but a super slow-mo going through the Foggy S on a day like this with the slides they're having. With
just like that.
My goodness.
Look at Leon Wilson just bumping the curbs through the first part. I love seeing the cars move around through here. Watch Baxter on the exit here. Gets the power down and is turning left while the car is going right. Wheels spinning, but completely, I say, in control. He's controlling the car while it's out of control. That lost him a little bit of time, but just, you know, it's good to see these slow-mos, to see how much work the drivers are doing behind the wheel of these cars.
I've never been so happy with a prediction.
Honestly, we didn't get cued in our ears.
Not.
That wasn't a cue either, so that was a premonition from Lewis McGlade there.
It just looked like the perfect time for a slow-mo sliding through there. That was excellent.
Should be a director, Lewis. But anyway, this is great to see the drivers pushing on hard. This is still a pretty close battle, and any small error can cost you 2 or 3 tenths, which can put you under pressure from the car behind or lose the pressure you're applying to the car in front.
Well, obviously there's not long left to go in this race. 3 minutes 15 seconds with the lap times they're running. Realistically, we'll be entering the penultimate lap of the race. You can see a little bit there, the blue sky. It's a patch, you're absolutely right, just poking through as we head down into the foggy. Yes, you can see it really, it is quite bright. That might be quite difficult to dry. I guess the sun's not low enough for it to be probably making the surface bright.
It won't, but if you look at this angle, so you can see the reflections off of the road surface from this camera looking at the Melbourne Loop. When you sit so low in the cars, a lot of glare comes off the road surface when it's wet, and some of the drivers may have opted for a clear visor, some may have opted for a slightly lighter smoke than maybe you would run in full sunny dry conditions. A lot of the drivers run either dark smoke or tinted visors, like sunglasses effectively on their helmets. But in wet conditions, if you've gone for a clear visor and the sun comes out, it is blinding. as a lot of people will experience on the road, you know, in your road car. But it's a bit different, you know, going 30 miles an hour through the town centre. It's a bit bright, as opposed to 130 miles an hour flat out down the Craner curves.
Well, yeah, when you can stick some sunglasses on, or, you know, just pull down the little...
Just slow down a bit as well.
Yeah, or anything. You can't do that in this. You're on the absolute limit. Fastest lap of the race, by the way, has just come in from Finn Harrison. Now 3/4 of a second off the race lead with just 2 laps left to go. He is hunting down his second victory in GB4. And I think right now he'd be feeling pretty good for it. The only thing that I would say, and I will say this on the broadcast because he can definitely not hear us, so it's fine. He's focusing on his driving, is that Finn Harrison does have a little bit of a track record. We saw this, of course, at Alton Park in the weather. You're going to see the grimace on your face, you know what I'm about to say, of pushing the car to the absolute limit and maybe a little bit too far and dropping it. Yeah, well, we've seen Finn Harrison's pace at various stages of the race. He's been one of the fastest, if not the fastest driver at many stages this season, but unfortunately, on a number of occasions, he's just pushed that little bit too hard, been a bit overzealous, and ended up making mistakes that have cost him dearly. And a second place, while disappointing from pole position, would be an excellent result at this stage in the season for Finn. If he's going to go for the race lead, he needs to make sure that it's a clinical move and it's decisive, and that he doesn't push that much too hard that it could jeopardise a good result, because it would be a great result for both himself and the Elite Motorsport team. And exactly what he needs at the second half of this season is, I think, he'll be looking to potentially, you know, either move up with the GB4 Championship or maybe even looking at GB3 next year. But do remember, Elite will probably be like, no, get past him, because you're taking 6 points off of Linus Granfors if you get past, and that'll help Alicia Palmovsky just a little bit without, you know, allowing the gap to grow too much. There's a lot at play in this. Finn Harrison not able to make anything stick down into turn 1. We're on the final lap of the race here. Where is his opportunity going to come? He's certainly got the speed at the moment, does Finn Harrison, but there's not many overtaking opportunities from this point on, with the exception of maybe going down into the Melbourne hairpin. That was a bit of a slide, though, going through the old hairpin for them. Yeah, well, it was. You can see that Linus, the gap has come down, not because Linus is easing off. Linus is still pushing very hard at the front of the field, chopping 2 wheels off the back of the curb and actually touching the mud, which is not something you ideally want to do. So he's pushing on and to try and maintain this gap to Harrison, and feeling the pressure maybe a little bit. And that's what Harrison needs to do at this stage. He doesn't want any high-risk manoeuvres. He doesn't want any high-risk dive bombs. If he just keeps the pressure on Linus Granfors, then potentially Granfors might make either a small error and allow Harrison to just, you know, get close enough to make a move, or maybe even force Granfors into a large error, which could hand him the position a little easier. But I think Linus Granfors is experienced and fast and talented enough that it's unlikely he's going to make any big errors. Touch wood, because I don't want to jinx anyone, of course. Well, they head down into the final complex of corners, ticking off the Melbourne hairpin now down into Goddard's, but it does look as though it is going to be a solid position for Linus Granfors to extend his championship lead even further. Going into this race, it was 28 points. It's going to be slightly larger than that and will be more than a race victory as he works his way through the final corner. It's a 6th victory in GB4 for Linus Granfors, as he's able to beat out Finn Harrison and Lucas Blakeley across the line, and whilst doing so, he sets the fastest lap of the race on the final one. Linus Granfors, well, he showed a lot of control in that race, that must be said. Yeah, it was a great race from Linus Granfors. Got away at the front of the field, into turn 1, and we've got still moves further down the order. That is the number 50 of Taylor, getting overtaken by Brandon Templeton. Yeah, Templeton made his way into the top 10 on the final lap of the race. Great final corner of the race. Great stuff from Templeton, who has had a couple of struggles this weekend, obviously with the spin that he had in race 1 going through Redgate, and maybe having a couple of problems as well in this one as well. There, of course, the line is Ellis. Then we've got Ava Dobson. To be fair, Dobson and Misera were pretty close throughout that race, so good for those two to keep it on the road and keep battling. Yeah, yes, of course. But it was, Templeton had a spin earlier on in this race as well, which is why he's a bit further down than potentially he would have expected himself to be. But that is our winner, Linus Granfors, and he did set the fast lap on that last lap, as you can see in the bottom left-hand side. It was a 1 minute 41.269, which is a good, 12 or 13 seconds slower than what we'd be expecting in full dry conditions. So, brilliant drive, extended his championship lead, and also with his closest championship rivals of Palmovsky and Burgoyne down in 4th and 5th. That's a great result for Granfors in terms of his championship challenge. Again, taking him just over a race win ahead of his nearest championship rivals. So the deal is not completely done yet, but if he can keep that championship gap to over a race win coming away from this weekend, I think that would have been his main aim and his ideal situation, because that means that he's got a bit of a buffer going into Brands Hatch, because Brands Hatch, one of the toughest circuits in the UK, technical, anything can happen. The difference is that obviously going into the next race, Harry Burgoyne Jr. will be starting from 4th position, if I remember correctly. So he's starting from a much better position. Maybe it's his best chance at taking a victory in GB4 finally, and we're able to close down some of the margin. At the moment, the top 3, by the way, based on those results. And I'll roll you through the championship standings after we're done with the highlights as well. But Linus Granfors will have 377 points. He'd be 42 points clear of Alicia Palmovsky, 46 points clear of Harry Burgoyne Jr. That is a big margin to take into the final 4 races of the season.
Yeah, 4 races, 1 here and then 3 at Brands Hatch. And a reminder, it's 35 points for a race win in race 1 and 2, 20 for a race win in race 3, plus any bonus points for gaining positions. So yes, that 40-something point advantage is going to be important. You can see what that means to him. Linus Granfors, another win. He has been very, very on when it's been going his way this year.
Yeah, you've got to say, realistically, from this point on, the amount of points that's up for grabs in the rest of the season, you're talking. It's kind of one of those ones that's very hard to actually say, because we know what the entry list is going to be like as well for Brands. It's all a little bit tricky, but it should be around about 130 odd points up for grabs for these drivers as they jump out. Linus Granfors obviously shaking the hands not only of engineers and stuff, but also of rivals in the race as well.
Yeah, it's good to see a high five and a handshake from Finn Harrison and Linus Granfors. And also, let's not forget, the man of the day yesterday, Lucas Blakeley, took the win. Another good result today in tricky conditions, 3rd place.
Which is just absolutely crazy. It's now 6 podiums in 8 races for Lucas Blakeley. That's crazy.
And it would have been 7 out of 7 if it wasn't for the situation at Snetterton as well. So on the road, he's been one of the fastest drivers at this mid-stage of the season. But no, good to see the camaraderie between the drivers. You get there again, a bit of an awkward handhold there, because Blakeley had his helmet in his right hand. But yeah, great to see the camaraderie between the drivers after what was a tricky race.
Anyway, we'll head down then into the podium, and we'll catch up with our top 3 in the race with Jon Jackson.
Yeah, just watching Linus celebrate with the photographer. I'm going to jump in here and have a quick chat with him before he gets his photo. We'll do it the other way around today. Linus, 6th race win and a great result for your championship hunt.
Yeah, a really good race, and it was super slippery, so I was just trying to hold the car on the track. So yeah, it was a good race. Yeah.
Talk to me about the start, because you got a very good start.
Yeah, I got a very good start, and then was on the outside of Harrison into the first corner, and the outside is better here. So yeah, it was just an easy pass, and then just try to get a gap.
I guess that's the ideal thing for you, really. Get past as soon as you can, and then you're in clean air.
Yeah, just trying to get a gap and then just drive for myself.
Excellent stuff. Well, as I say, 6th race winner of the season so far, and extending your lead in the championship. Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
There we go, Linus Granfors with Fortec Motorsport. We'll go over and speak to Finn Harrison. Of course, Finn Harrison finished 2nd from pole position yesterday, so incredibly consistent. Just having a chat with Eddie Ives here. Finn, I'll let you. I'll just talk. Don't worry. You can play around with your helmet, take your gloves off there. But I've just said here, obviously, basically the same result as yesterday. So probably annoying to have lost the place, but very consistent, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, Granfors had us at the start. I think we were running 2 slightly different strategies. I was definitely there at the end. It's just a shame we ran out of time at the end. Would have been a good little battle for the win.
We have the reverse grid race coming up a little bit later on, so it's going to be a little bit different for you, because you've started the race at the start. Now you're going to be coming from behind. Confident you can make up some places?
Yeah, I mean, you get points for every overtake you do. I'm just going to try and make a way through the field.
Are you hoping that the rain stays away, or are you quite happy with a bit of drizzle?
I'd rather the rain stays away now, because reverse grids are always interesting.
They are indeed. We'll keep our fingers crossed for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
There we go, Finn Harrison with Elite Motorsport, and I'm going to walk very slowly over here. Oh, I can't actually walk across here, because you see Linus Granfors having his photos taken now with all the photographers here, making sure they get their moment. I'm going to swing round actually to the left and speak to Lucas Blakeley now. There we go, another podium, another race, another podium for you. Kind of trophy hunter at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, it was a really fun race. Yeah, first of all, congrats to Linus and Harrison, or Finn, sorry, in that race. That was a really, really fun one. Managed to make some more places off the line, which was really key for the race. Picked off, I think, after the first few laps, managed to get past Alicia, which was a really fun side-by-side battle going down the Craner curves, which was pretty sick. And then, yeah, had a small glimpse of hope that in those sort of few laps after that I'd start to be able to push towards the win, but then, yeah, Finn and Linus took off a little bit in that middle phase of the race while I was still kind of sussing out what the track was doing, what my balance was doing. You know, I had a lot to learn in that race. Kind of wish I was here for one that was raining earlier in the year when everyone else was doing it, but yeah, happy with how I made progress through the race. I think that towards the end I started to come back into it a little bit, all the while understanding that, you know, there wasn't much left to be and I was hoping that they would battle and maybe I'd get an opportunity, but yeah, brought it home. Happy with how I made progress through the race, and yeah, I'm pretty sure it'll be quite useful for later on.
Yeah, very solid result. Very, very quickly, I mentioned this yesterday, a few important people in your life turned up unannounced yesterday.
Yes, so my mum, dad and little brother woke up at 4:30 AM, drove down from Scotland to Donington, and are here to support me this weekend, and I had absolutely no idea until they arrived at the KMR Sport awning yesterday morning. So yeah, and I hadn't had the chance to race in front of my little brother on GB4 as well, so it was awesome. He nearly knocked me over yesterday.
Yeah, we got highlights of that.
Yeah, which was pretty nuts. But yeah, great to have them here, and obviously I need to say a huge thanks again to KMR Sport, because they gave me a really good car to drive in the wet, and it gave me a lot of confidence to keep pushing. So one more to go later, and I'm going to try and savour every moment of it.
Absolutely, congratulations, Lucas.
Thank you.
Yeah, KMR Sport closing in on the Teams Championship. Before this race, they were 175 points ahead. That will have changed now, but we'll talk about that after the podium.
Certainly so. Yeah, I don't believe it's fully settled on the Teams Championship, but I believe it most certainly will be, based on what they're looking like after the final race of the weekend, which is, by the way, quite a while away. Before they jump onto the podium, I will let you know the next race for these drivers is not for 6.5 hours. They are going to have a lot of sitting around and waiting until we go racing, of course, at about 10 minutes past 5 for the final race of GB4 this weekend, and then we'll get ready for the season finale at Brands Hatch in a few weeks. But before that, getting way too far ahead of ourselves, because we have to welcome the drivers back onto the podium. It is a 6th podium this year for Lucas Blakeley. Could he be making it 3 podiums this weekend? We'll have to wait and see. 6 from 8, absolutely crazy. Finn Harrison on the podium for the 3rd consecutive race though. 1st, 2nd, and now another 2nd. But welcome back to the top step of the podium. It's Linus Granfors, who's taken his 6th victory in GB4. Awkwardly though, it is only his his 3rd podium in 5 races, but his last podium before that was 6 races before that. So he had a fair time away from the podium over the middle part of the season, but he's finding his form once more, and importantly was able to outscore Alicia Palmowski and Harry Burgoyne Jr. fairly comfortably. Obviously receiving a handshake and a trophy, and a 6th winner's trophy for Linus Granfors. The only other time that he's been on the podium and it wasn't a victory was the 2nd race at Silverstone just a few races ago, where he was able to take a 2nd position from pole. We'll have to wait and see whether he can maybe march his way through the field and sneak another podium in the 3rd race. Let's take a look though at highlights from round 17. Highlights from round 17 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. It was underway, and unfortunately for Ellis, there was already a stall on the line. For Linus Granfors, though, it was a good launch, and straight around the outside he would go, as he was able to power his way through around the outside of Finn Harrison and into victory after a brilliant drive. However, there were some big battles further down the order, as Harry Burgoyne Jr. Was going side by side with Wilson. Unfortunately, there was a bit of a spin for Templeton after some contact with Megan Bruce. Alicia Palmowski dropping back behind as Lucas Blakeley was working his way forward and up and onto the podium positions. They had to settle behind Finn Harrison, who was applying the pressure late on in the race, but could not do anything about this driver here. Linus Granfors through the final corner to take a 6th victory in GB4. We'll take a look at the provisional results. Of course, there is that talk of a potential jump start, or out of position on the race start, rather, for Linus Granfors. He was able to take the victory, though, by 1.2 seconds from Finn Harrison for Elite Motorsports for his 3rd consecutive podium and 4th podium in GB4. Lucas Blakeley in 3rd with Alicia Palmowski and Harry Burgoyne Jr. Of course, the rivals for 2nd in the championship at the moment, finishing in 4th and 5th. Callum Baxter inside the top 10 with a 6th place finish for the Graham Brunton Racing team, half a second behind the KMR Sport driver of Harry Burgoyne Jr. Then we've got Liam Wilson, and then Megan Bruce, Chloe Grant and Brandon Templeton. After the spin, was able to recover another top 10 finish before we get to Jack Taylor, Dan Hickey, of course Ellis, Dobson and Misera. Of course, Ellis and Misera, those two on debut this weekend. Misera not finishing too far behind Ava Dobson in her 2nd weekend in GB4. Provisional standings, of course, Linus Granfors 377 7 points to his name as he heads the standings by 42 points over Alicia Palmovsky, 46 points over Harry Burgoyne Jr. Those are the top 3 that will be battling for the championship, and most likely until well, maybe not the final race at Brands Hatch if Linus Granfors keeps up this form. Brandon Templeton in 4th position in a close fight with Callum Baxter. Finn Harrison, though, is closing in with the good form that he's been showing recently. 6th position for him. Lucas Blakeley, Taylor, McCacken and Grant, the top 10. We'll head down, though, to Piers to see who he's catching up with in the paddock.
Yep, thanks, Lewis. We're down getting some of the reaction with the drivers. Didn't quite make it into the podium places. Megan, looked like it was a tough race out there, but you were well in the fight.
Yeah, at the start it was really tough. Like, you could barely see anything, and obviously there's quite a few cars ahead, so it's just a cloud of like wetness. So you have to, just hope that you make it for the corner. But it was really good fun.
It looked like good fun out there. Cars sliding around, trying to stay on the racing circuit was probably the number 1 priority.
Yeah, like just the traction coming out. Sometimes it was good, and then sometimes you'd be opposite lock. So you just have to explore each lap. But it was good fun.
Let's talk about your race as well. It looked like we were in the fight, moving up and down with the drivers. Also, it looks like you were racing closely with Brandon as well, your teammate.
Yeah, I mean, I already apologise for tapping him at the hairpin, but yeah, we haven't seen it, but it's so slippery, and I was full lock trying to get into the apex. I mean, he just didn't quite see me, but I've apologised. So.
It's racing. It's one of those things. It's so close, and when you're racing that close and you make a touch in those wet conditions, it can so easily go wrong. This afternoon, if it stays like this, we might end up with some dry running. Would you prefer it to be wet or dry?
Probably wet, or at least like today or yesterday, because I don't know, it's a bit more fun, and hopefully maybe some carnage behind me that I can stay up the front.
Megan, thank you so much for chatting to us. We'll let you go and debrief with the team after what was a tricky race, and we're going to get Harry Burgoyne in very quickly now just to get a bit of reaction. Harry, we just heard from Megan, tricky set of conditions out there, but how was the race for you? You looked like you had good pace at the start, especially.
Yeah, I mean, I got a really good start, managed to get up to 6th or 7th, I think, and then the car just was good at the start with more water that was down, but as the race went and dried up a little bit, it kind of lost a little bit of pace, but the car felt good. If it stayed well all the way through, I reckon we could have maybe been pushing for a podium position.
Harry, thank you very much for catching up with us. We've got to head off to the GB3 very shortly, so why don't we go grab Callum Baxter actually before, seeing as Callum's made his way over. Callum, tricky conditions, how was the race from your position?
Yeah, like you said, very tricky. I was kind of stuck for most of the race between Harry and Wilson behind me, so I was kind of just trying to manage, trying to get to the back of Harry, but couldn't quite get close enough for a pass.
Couldn't quite get close enough, but good experience racing in these conditions. So what can you do this afternoon in the reverse grid race?
Yeah, just if it's wet again, which looks like it might be, I'll just take what I learned from this race and try to make some moves.
Amazing. Callum, we look forward to those moves later on. Thanks very much for catching up with us. We'll let you go and warm up and cool off and dry out. Jonas,
what's this?
I don't know. Very unlike Donington. And
I haven't even brought my sunglasses. When I woke up, it was raining. GB3 cars are getting wheeled around because GB3 is coming up very, very soon. Another great race in GB4. Great drive from Linus Granfors there. Start was under investigation, so of course we'll bring you any information on that. I don't think that was resolved during our broadcast as I made my way here. But yeah, we'll let you know what's going on there. You can re-watch all of the GB4 action, of course, where you're watching this right now, and you can watch Piers checking out next year's car as well. I think we've got to very, very quickly go to GB3, which is coming up very, very soon. So we're going to take a very short pause, and we'll see you in a matter of minutes for GB3 as we race for the second time this weekend here at Donington Park.